Thank you, everyone. So I know that I'm the last thing between you and lunch, so we'll do my best to be as engaging as possible. So can everyone stand up, please? Shake around, do a 360, say woo at the end of it. No. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, you can sit back down. You can stand up if you want to as well. But yes, I want to make sure that this is as engaging as possible so that we're all full of knowledge before we get full of lunch. So thank you so much for having me today. I'm Gwera. I am the VP of Blockchain at Onafriq, which is, who's heard of MFS Africa? Anyone know? Yep. We are now rebranded as Onafriq. We are Africa's largest payment gateway. So anyone who wants to do payments in Africa, so that's moving money in, out, or around Africa, we do that. So we serve enterprise merchants, MNOs, mobile money operators are one of our biggest clients. So think of your M-Pesas, Airtel, Orange. We help them move money around Africa. We also work with MTOs, money transfer operators, and a series of other services across our suite, which is amazing. So today, I'm here to talk a little bit more about myself and what I do and why I think we should all care about crypto. Anyone have any crypto exposure in the room? More hands than I was expecting from bankers, which is showing a sign, right? So crypto is something that you shouldn't be afraid of it. The big C word is one that has had a bad reputation in the past, but the work that I'm doing right now and the work that Onafriq and other leading fintechs across the continent are doing is basically driving a change that is really showing the power of crypto across our ecosystem. So my talk is titled Africa is Crypto's ICP, which is basically means it's the ideal customer profile. Crypto does not need Africa. Sorry, Africa does not need crypto, but crypto indeed needs Africa. So I'll explain a little bit more about that. But before I do, I'll briefly explain who I am. I am an operator, former founder, also investor across the African fintech ecosystem. I have previously built companies in Africa, but also abroad, so Europe and the UK, Latin America, and the US. So previously at Monzo, a little tiny bank that was previously just a little card, but became a regulated bank. I worked there, led financial crime product. Since then, I was at 11FS, which is a fintech consultancy based in London. We did work all around the world before landing at Onafriq. So Onafriq is not a crypto company. I, myself, I'm not a crypto person, which is what I've been kind of shoeboxed into, but I'm a fintech and financial services, specifically payments professional, who is curious. I'm crypto curious, if we can call it that. And we are basically using crypto to make whatever it is we do a lot faster, cheaper, and more efficient. So let's get started. So I'll briefly explain who Onafriq is. So just a quick, brief overview of Onafriq and who we are, and setting the stage for what we do. So we are, like I mentioned, Africa's largest payment gateway. We're across 9 countries with regards to our offices, but with regards to our rails, we're in 40 countries in Africa. We are connecting 500 million mobile money wallets. This also includes over 200 million bank accounts. So some of our partners are in the room today, which is great. In Nigeria, we recently acquired a company called Baxi, which is an agent network with over I think this slide says 300. I think we're hovering close to 500,000 agents across Nigeria with POS devices, and we do cash in, cash out, bill payment, and also other B2B services. We partner with Visa. We're partnered with some of the largest enterprises across the ecosystem, including crypto. But Onafriq we're also the largest prepaid card issuer processor in the region. So issuing and processing on behalf of some banks and fintech providers. If you know Paga, for example, all their cards are processed and issued by us. So this is another slide with a bunch of words and stuff about what we do. You don't have to look at this. Onafriq is massive. We do a lot of great things. The previous speaker was talking about how complex Africa is. I could not agree more. I have worked all around the world, and working in Africa is something that people kind of see Africa as, yes, it's a huge opportunity, but working at the scale at which we work at, it is an insanely difficult lift. We have teams, like I mentioned, in 9 offices, basically managing our insane and vast network and managing the relationships that we have with partners, payout partners like MNOs, so your mobile money operators, banks, regulators. We are very, very close to regulators. And in my role as the VP of blockchain, we like to go through the front door with regulators. We're not one to try and see. No, we actually want to engage our regulators, and we're in active conversation with most of our regulators right now with regards to what we're developing in crypto. So I'll explain why Africa is the ideal ICP, and then I'll get a little bit into like how crypto really is going to change the game. So Africa really, and I'm using it as a monolithic term. I do not want to give the impression that Africa is one, even though we have Ubuntu. I'm Ugandan. There's a few Nigerians in the crowd. We are one, yes, but Africa is incredibly highly fragmented and really, like someone in Francophone West Africa, so say Senegal, is incredibly different to someone in Nairobi. Someone in Lagos even is very different to someone in Accra. Am I correct? No? Yes. So the scale of the region really lends itself to a really broad range of use cases and solutions that could be solved with new digital money form. Africa also has a DNA of disruption, right? So we have, like I said, a large population, young and rapidly growing, who are open to new technologies, open to new ways of doing things. In Kenya, for example, we've all heard the M-Pesa story. This is not just in Kenya, right? We're seeing mobile money taking off in other parts of the continent, including Ethiopia, Francophone Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria slowly. Mobile money is taking off. Well done on NIBS. NIBS has really made it easy for people to do digital payments, but we've got a real DNA of disruption across the continent. And then lastly, the time horizon. So Africa's young, like I mentioned. We have time. We have a lot of time to try new things and establish what works where, and crypto experimentation is something that lends itself well to a long time horizon. Cool. So the adoption of crypto in Africa. So when you think about crypto, can you guys just shout out words that you think about when you think about crypto? Scam. Bitcoin. Blockchain. Jargon, scam, complex things, blah, blah, blah. Future of finance, yeah. What's that? Fraud. Wonderful. This is what I want to hear, because yes, these are all things that crypto has been associated with in the past, and as we are coming out, the dust is settling slightly on mass adoption previously of what we saw it look like before. So Bitcoin, scams like FTX, and the like. We don't like to use that word because it's a dark past. But we've come out of that, and we're in a position now where the grown-ups have entered the room, right? We are seeing banks globally actively explore crypto. We are seeing users, more mature users, more sophisticated use cases of crypto coming into play. So payments has been a big one. We've got folks like the JP Morgan group have launched their own cryptocurrency called the JPM coin, which they use for internal treasury management. We are seeing large global aid providers like UNHCR starting to use crypto to disperse aid a lot faster and quicker in Ukraine. So the use cases we've seen before have, around scams, around Bitcoin, around the volatility of it all. That's been great, and we've learned our lessons. But like I said, the grown-ups are entering the conversation. And what does this mean? This means that real-world use cases are starting to prevail. Who here knows what not HTML. Oh God, what is it? I was trying to. The email protocol. What is it called? Anyone remember the names? TML or something? SMTP. Who knows what SMTP is? Raise of hands. Okay, that's quite a few people. If you poll the globe, really, no one knows what SMTP is. No, not a single person knows what it is, but they use it every single day in email, right? So SMTP, if you look at the time when SMTP first came out, 100% of people using SMTP understood what it was. This is the American military, scientists, academics. They, some people in business, they knew what SMTP was. They'd say, I'm SMTPing someone. In comes Yahoo Mail, Gmail, well, before Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, and this kind of created the perfect use case and wrapped SMTP into a nice user experience that we still use today. So if you look at the trajectory of people who knew what SMTP was when it first came out and people who are using it, it correlated. Now, not many people know what it is, but everyone is using it. And crypto is yet to have its moment of a nice user experience wrapped around it. We're going to see that coming from traditional financial services. We're going to see it, really, Africa already was seeing this use case prevalent, still waiting for it to land with regards to the scale of how it works. But this graph here will show you a little bit about the use cases of crypto in Africa. Oops, sorry, not this graph. How do I go back? There we go. So this graph right here, retail transactions are leading the way with regards to how people are using crypto in the region. This is for transactions under, I think it was $100. People are using it to settle payments. People are using it to send remittances. They're using it to get money out of certain countries that it may be difficult to find dollars. But this is starting to show a trend that is quite interesting. And yes, right, I mean, a few years ago, this data is from 2022 or 23, and this is quite a while ago. And we definitely are seeing the early adopters. So this is not used at the scale that it's capable of. And we're seeing people use this technology to do things that they couldn't do before, which is send money from Nairobi to London without having to go through a bank. Sorry to the bankers in the room. If you've tried to move money from Nairobi to London, you know that it's very expensive, very difficult. Whereas with crypto, there's no capital controls. There's no controls over who can send what. Anyone with an internet connection and a wallet can send money to whomever they want. So this has been really the beginning of how things have been moving, and this is the early adopters. So crypto adoption is on the rise, and we're seeing it in Africa, not as quite at the pace that we're seeing in the West, so in Europe or North America, but still we're seeing a rise across the ecosystem from early adopters. In the UK, we use faster payments. Faster payments works. We take it for granted. Across Africa, like I've mentioned, incredibly hyper-fragmented. So even moving money within Africa can be quite difficult. And we found that people are using it to settle with each other. So someone in Uganda doesn't want to hold Kenyan shillings, but they want to trade with a Kenyan. So what are we doing? We're seeing people use dollars. Dollars are difficult to find, expensive to maintain, really expensive also to transfer. But people are finding marketplaces like Binance and others, Yellow Card exchanges, and they're using those to find stablecoins and swap to local currency and settle with each other. Again, this is the early adopters. We're still yet to find, we're still yet to see someone put a nice layer on top of that. There's a lot of startups in the space working on this, but we're yet to see this. But just to show you that this is the use case that we're seeing right now. So another graph showing how much this is growing. I think this deck will be shared later, so you can take a look at that. Okay, so the way that crypto is used in North America and the global minority, we are seeing speculative use cases, right? So people buying Bitcoin, and to be honest, in the early days of crypto in Africa, everyone was using it to get rich quick. There was tons of scams. It was a cesspool, but it definitely has remained in this region. So if you know someone in Canary Wharf who is, if you step out the street and you ask someone in Canary Wharf, what are you holding in crypto? They're likely to tell you Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, I don't know, whatever, one of these speculative coins. If you are to go to the Canary Wharf equivalent in, say, Nairobi, they will be like, well, actually, I'm holding USDT, or I'm holding USDC, or I'm holding a US dollar stablecoin. They may be holding the speculative ones, but they're using USD-denominated stablecoins, which is a digital version of a dollar. because they have an actual use case for it, there's actually utility behind what they're using. So this is the first time, if you really take a step back and look at the trajectory of innovation, this is the first time Africa and the global majority have received the technology at the same time as everyone else. We received phones after everyone. We received computers. They were brought to us, right? Innovation was brought to us, especially when it comes to digital innovation. However, with crypto, it's democratized. It's anyone and who has an internet connection can access crypto. So this is the first time we've seen something arrive, or a new technology arrive at the same time to everyone in the world. The use cases we've seen in the global minority has been speculative and remains to be speculative. In the global majority, though, we're seeing a robust use case of utility, people using it for actual things that they need to do. A friend of mine likes to say, money moves no matter what. So this in Africa is really quite an important concept, because you need to move money, right? If you're in Europe or the US, fairly easy to move money. I mean, there may be some barriers depending on how much you want to move, but in Africa it's quite difficult. You know, I'm sure some of you know people who are moving dollars in the back of trucks, people who are putting pounds into suitcases and figuring out how to move this around the world. Money moves no matter what. Crypto as a manifestation is a new way of doing this, and we found this to be the trajectory that makes the most sense. So this slide over here, sorry, previous slide. I think I don't have control over this, so I'll just... so if you look at this image, anyone here who's a product manager or who has worked in product, like I have, has seen this diagram before. This is in every product textbook. Essentially, it's showing the trajectory of innovation and how things work. As a recovering banker myself, I would say a lot of banks tend to think in this method, right? So you start with one thing, and you do another thing, and you just build slowly by slowly in a waterfall fashion, and you get the final product. That's not how innovation works. Innovation works through an iterative process, and where you start does not look anything like where you end. So it is over time, over a lot of research, over a lot of feedback, over a lot of different types of iterations and manifestations of something that we get to a final product. So the next slide, please. So let's look at Apple, for example, where Apple Music came from. So Apple started with a iPod, right? So remember the iPod Nano? You have a little thing that you can listen to all your music. Amazing. When it came out, it was such a hit. And it was also hardware sales. Hardware sales are quite nice, right? So Apple was quite enjoying that. They iterated over and over again till we got to the iPod Touch. Do you guys remember the iPod Touch? iPod Touch was the last iPod. This is an iPod that kind of looked like an iPhone. But they thought to themselves, we need to cannibalize ourselves. We need to actually radically shift how we think about music and how people consume music. So they got rid of a whole line of revenue, which is hardware sales. They completely gutted it, and moved Apple Music, or previously was iTunes, into the iPhone, which was quite disruptive. At the time, it was quite people were not reluctant to use music on their phone. They said, my phone is what I do work on, it's what I receive calls on. What do you mean you want me to listen to music on my phone? But they kept at it, and iTunes didn't change really aesthetically or UX-wise until now we have Apple Music. So still with iTunes, you could buy music, you could listen to music. Same model as the iPod. Until now we have Apple Music, which is a software play, right? So recurring revenue play as well. So they've gone from where they started with revenue from hardware sales and from music sales to a point where they have a simplified monthly subscription that is recurring revenue for a software product. And they've got everyone hooked onto it. Well, not everyone. I'm a Spotify person myself. But they've got a captive audience. Same with credit. So I wasn't around when the first credit card existed, but I do remember being quite young and seeing my parents' credit card be like stamped, and I was like, what are they doing? I don't quite understand that. this is the early days of credit, credit cards. Even at that time, it was quite an innovation. And the concept of your bank or a provider like American Express providing you with credit that you pay off every month, that you can use throughout the month, was quite revolutionary at its time. But we've moved to a new paradigm, which is Klarna. Who knows what Klarna is? Klarna, who knows what Afterpay, Carbon in Nigeria. This is the new iteration of credit. So Gen Zs, they don't want credit cards. They don't really want cards, really. I mean, they want cards maybe in Africa to pay for things like Spotify or AWS or even Netflix. But ultimately, no one really wants a credit card anymore. They want the product to meet them where they're at. So at the point of sale, at the checkout, they want to see the option to pay in 3 installments. It's very easy. It looks like a cool, shiny product, but at the end of the day, it's debt. It's just credit. So if we apply this thinking to financial services, I think that this is a model that is starting to kind of take shape. So if we look at financial services in fintech, banking specifically, banks, we used to have a banking manager. Some people still do. I know my parents do. The person that they go to and they sit down, they have tea, and they say, "Oh, how are the kids?" And my parents are like, "The kids are adults now." But very intimate relationship, and that's moved to a position where the bank was copy pasted onto a phone. So an app that really you could do the same thing you could do inside a bank, but on your phone. And that's kind of where we're still at today. There are companies now like Revolut, Monzo, even Carbon in Nigeria, that are doing interesting things where they're embedding services, and this is where embedded finance comes in, into banking apps. So at the end of the day, everyone wants to have a bank. Obviously, we will all have bank accounts at some point, but we want more out of our bank accounts. I personally would love to have a bank account. I don't have it yet, but I would love a Swiss banker in my pocket. I would love to have someone who, when my salary comes in, I don't even think about it. They just pay my rent, pay for whatever bills I need to pay for, put money away for the holiday that I might take someday, and I just keep going on with my life. So having smart financial planning or a smart financial manager in neobanking is the trajectory we're going toward. AI and crypto is something that is going to really significantly increase the chances of this happening. Crypto specifically, mostly because crypto is digital money. You can program what it does. This is something with smart contracts, various digital assets on chain. You can manipulate them in certain ways to do many things. Again, we're still yet to see this happen at scale, but it's coming. Next slide, please. So I want to introduce you to this concept of the mullet. Have you heard of the mullet haircut? Yeah? It's business in the front, party in the back. It was popular in the 80s and it made a resurgence in the 2020s. But I'm going to introduce you to the crypto mullet. So this is really where I see crypto adoption at scale. Crypto adoption that isn't just you buying Bitcoin or you worrying about being scammed. No, this is adoption of crypto that is under the hood. This is happening in the background of what is going on. I can assure you right now, there are almost every fintech in Africa that is doing payments, every fintech that is doing over $10 million of revenue a year, I can guarantee you is using crypto right now, because I speak to them, we work with them. They are all using crypto in the background. Their users may not know this, but it's happening. Next slide, please. So here are just some examples of Africa-focused mullets. So PhoneBank. PhoneBank is a company based out of Nairobi and Nigeria, and they essentially are enabling people to swap airtime or mobile money for crypto. So you give them airtime or you give them mobile money, or you could receive a voucher that has crypto on it, and you can do what you wish with that crypto. MoneyGram. We've all heard of MoneyGram. MoneyGram is using crypto. No one knows it, but it's happening under the hood. I speak to the MoneyGram head of crypto every so often. They're just begging for introductions to other providers, payout providers across the region who will accept pre-funding. They're still happy to pre-fund. The pre-funding model is still quite prevalent in money transfer, but they want people businesses to be pre-funded in crypto because they're having a US dollar stablecoin treasury is way more efficient than running 15,000 bank accounts in all the countries that they operate in. Onafriq, we are also a crypto and Africa-focused mullet. We, as the largest payment gateway, we're leveraging blockchain and digital assets to make what we do faster, cheaper, and like I said, we're also working with our regulators to make sure that everything we're doing remains over the board. UNHCR, like I mentioned, they have started, they've piloted during the Ukraine crisis, but they've already started getting aid to people faster using crypto. This is happening, again, in the background. The people who are receiving the aid have no clue that crypto was involved. They just know that I received money quickly. Sling, which is a really exciting company, they're based out of London, but they have a global focus and they went live in Africa, and we're working with them right now. Sling Money is founded by an ex-Monzo team, so incredibly amazing team that is focused on the UX. So they are abstracting away the complexity of what crypto is and using a clear user experience to help people move money around the world easily, and you can send money to anyone, anywhere, using the Sling app. So they've actually built something quite impressive. Next slide, please. Cool. So that's it with my talk, and I'm happy to take some questions. But yeah, the crypto mullet is really, when we talk about the future of crypto, we're not going to see 15 other Sam Bankman-Frieds. We're not going to see Binance grow to a much bigger size than it is now. We may, but the real crypto adoption is going to happen behind the hood, under the hood, behind the scenes, and it should be making us work faster, smarter, harder. Cool. Any questions?
I'm actually going to ask that anyone that has questions for Gwera, please ask them in our break, because it is now lunchtime, and I don't want to keep everyone from being fed. So please give a warm hand to Gwera. And sorry, you're going to be inundated at lunch, so you're not going to get to eat, but everyone else will get to eat. Please ask Gwera your questions during our break, and I'll see you back at 1:30.
Brilliant. Thank you.